Imagine a child in and out of hospitals, undergoing endless tests, taking medications, even having surgeries, all because their own parent says they're sick. Now imagine that child was never sick at all. Sounds unbelievable, right? But this is a real form of child abuse, and it's more common than you might think. It's called Munchausen Syndrome by Proxy, and it's one of the most disturbing and deceptive conditions in psychology. Caregivers, usually mothers, fake or even cause illness in their children just to get attention and sympathy. Doctors believe them. Friends and family support them. Even the child believes they are sick. By the time anyone realizes the truth, the damage is already done. Some children survive, some don't. And the scariest part, most people never see it coming. Today, we're talking about how this happens, why caregivers do it, and how cases like Gypsy Rose Blanchard shock the world. Because the more we talk about it, the better chance we have of stopping it. All right, let's break it down. Munchausen Syndrome by Proxy, also called factitious disorder imposed on another, is when a caregiver, usually a parent, fakes or even causes an illness in their child. Why? Not for money, not for revenge. It's about attention and control. These caregivers love playing the role of the devoted, self-sacrificing parent. They thrive on sympathy, admiration, and the spotlight that comes with having a sick child. And because they seem so involved, so loving, so dedicated, they almost never get caught. Munchausen by proxy is shockingly hard to detect. Here's why. They look like the perfect parent. They're always at the hospital, raising money, sharing emotional updates on social media. The child doesn't know they're being abused. If you've been told your whole life that you're sick, why would you question it? Doctors believe them. These caregivers do their homework. They know exactly what symptoms to describe and what tests to ask for. It can go on for years. Some children grow up enduring countless hospital stays, medications, and surgeries, all for nothing. By the time anyone figures it out, the damage is already done. Let's talk about one of the most infamous cases of Munchausen by proxy, Gypsy Rose Blanchard. For years, her mother, D.D. Blanchard, convinced the world that Gypsy was terminally ill. She said Gypsy had leukemia, muscular dystrophy, and even brain damage. She forced her to use a wheelchair, even though she could walk. She had doctors remove Gypsy's salivary glands so she couldn't eat properly. She shaved her head, made her take unnecessary medications, and kept her completely isolated from friends and family. Gypsy believed she was sick, until she didn't. And when she finally realized the truth, she fought back in the most shocking way possible. She conspired to murder her mother. Gypsy's case made headlines, and when the full story came out, people were horrified. Was she a victim or a criminal? Or maybe both. Her story put Munchausen Syndrome by proxy in the public eye. But for every Gypsy, there are countless other victims who never escape. For children trapped in this cycle, the effects are life-changing. Unnecessary medical procedures. Some kids undergo surgeries, feeding tubes, and treatments they never needed. Severe mental health struggles, PTSD, anxiety, trust issues. The trauma doesn't end when the abuse does. Some survivors develop Munchausen syndrome themselves, faking illnesses as adults because they were conditioned to believe they were always sick. In extreme cases, it's deadly. Studies suggest that around 10% of MSbP victims die from medical mistreatment or direct harm from their caregiver. And the saddest part? Many victims never even know they were abused. Munchausen by proxy is rare, but when it happens, it's devastating. So what can we do? Here are some warning signs. Does the child's illness make no sense? If the symptoms don't match medical tests, something could be off. Does the child get better when the parent isn't around? That's a major red flag. Is there a pattern? A history of multiple sick children or unexplained deaths in a family can be a clue. Is the parent constantly seeking attention? Are they always at fundraisers, on social media, or getting sympathy for their struggles? If something doesn't seem right, speak up. It's better to be wrong than to let a child suffer in silence, because for these kids, silence can be deadly. Munchausen syndrome by proxy is one of the most disturbing forms of abuse because it hides in plain sight. Most people see a loving, dedicated parent doing everything possible to care for a sick child. But sometimes, that parent is the reason the child is sick in the first place. So, let's keep talking about it. Let's raise awareness. And most importantly, let's not look the other way when something doesn't add up. We want to hear your thoughts. Had you heard of Munchausen Syndrome by Proxy before? What other mental health topics do you want us to cover? Drop a comment, and let's keep the conversation going. For more information and support, check out munchausensupport.com. And don't forget to subscribe to MedHeads podcast at meducate.com.au for more deep dives into true crime, medical mysteries, and the darker side of healthcare.